Pleasure to recognize Mr. Brady from the great state of Texas, the ranking member of the full committee.
Thank you, Chairman Lewis, for holding this important hearing today. It goes without question, every member sitting up here on this dais today strongly condemns all hate crimes. Those individuals who seek to incite or engage in violent behavior are antithetical to what it means to be an American. And all of our witnesses with us here today, on behalf of the Republican members of our committee, we want to say that we are with you. No family should have to suffer the senseless loss of a loved one just because they're targeted for being who they are. No student, no child, no member of law enforcement, no Christian attending church, no Jew attending the synagogue, no Muslim going to the mosque for prayer. No one should have to fear for their lives when they leave their home to go about their daily lives. The tragedies that you all have had to endure are unfathomable. Many of you have been victims and survivors of domestic terrorism, whether it is in El Paso, in Gilroy, in Dayton, Florida, around this country. I'm encouraged the FBI is treating these senseless attacks as such, and the bravery you've all shown in the face of these inexcusable events have been relentless and inspiring. The individuals who wrongly attacked you, wrongly attacked our neighbors and our loved ones have no place in our society. And what I hope we can accomplish today at this hearing is step one is working together, Republicans and Democrats, to find a constitutional solution to ensure any group that's violent or seeks to cause violence doesn't receive the same tax benefits that our nonprofits and our churches receive. Because for us Americans and us Republicans, we strongly defend the First Amendment and strongly condemn any group that commit or incite violence. And during this debate, we want to keep the founding principles of the First Amendment in mind. Because the truth is, the First Amendment not only applies to speech we agree with, but it also applies to speech we despise. As the late Justice Black wrote in the 1960s, our First Amendment rights must be accorded to the ideas we hate, or sooner or later they'll be denied to the ideas we cherish. So the question we as lawmakers must address is how do we not only protect, but indeed enhance our rights as free speech by also encouraging hate groups to not receive the same tax benefits as others. Republican believes it begins by urging the IRS to have a much stronger application examination process for both new groups applying for tax-exempt status, and again, for those that already have it. If a tax-exempt group violates our laws, the appropriate penalties should be the result. And this includes the potential loss of tax-exempt status. The Constitution protects your right to free speech. It doesn't protect your right to a tax exemption. And equally as important, while we consider our best to do this, we must not allow the IRS to become politicized. My belief is that the darkest days in America have been when we have weaponized the government. We saw this during the Civil Rights era. We saw this during the Vietnam War protest. We saw it more recently when the IRS targeted Americans based on their political beliefs because they were too pro-Israel or too pro-Constitution or too pro-life. We saw that happen during the Obama administration. We cannot allow the IRS to be used as a political weapon to discriminate against different organizations based on just convictions or ideologies. I think we find ourselves in a time in our nation's history where some would rather shut down debate and silence political opponents instead of engaging in constructive dialogue. In the end, we can't politicize hate. We can protect the fundamental First Amendment right to free speech so that we can engage with one another, become more tolerant and more diverse as a society, one that condemns hate, cherishes dissent, celebrates differences. And today should be a check on that. This hearing should be a chance, Mr. Chairman, for us to listen to each other, to work together toward an effective constitutional solution, to do all that we can to make sure this doesn't happen to any other families, to any other parents, to any other loved ones in America. And I'm hoping that working together, we can find out how to ensure our tax code protects the First Amendment while disavowing hate groups that we will hear about today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Brady.